Okay, welcome again. SharePoint 203, the replicant page layout. Today we'll be covering the layout, what it does, how it acts, and how to identify a replicant versus a hand-churned linking layout. Today we'll talk about how to edit an existing replicant section on a page, how to delete and create replicant sections, how to reorder them as far as how they appear on the page, top to bottom. We'll talk about saving a replicant page. And finally, we'll talk about the option that has been installed to convert a replicant page from the old style to the new. There's significant differences, and sometimes time will not allow us to attack the conversion right now, so we've made it an option rather than compulsory. Right now you're looking at a replicant page as it appears in your SharePoint authoring environment. This is not a beginner's class, so we're going to start here as opposed to how to get around or any of those more basic items. They'll be covered in the basic training class, which is available online as of today, in fact, in GovSpace, and is also being presented again live at the end of June. So here is the replicant page layout. You can see that this layout contains your normal items for an Oregon.gov web page. We've got the header with the agency header here. This agency is called Training. It's a copy of the Oregon Department of Aviation site. We have the government navigation bar. We have a normal looking left nav. Notice we don't have any right navigation items on a replicant page. That's just the way they're designed. And we have the footer. So it's a pretty standard looking Oregon.gov page. The functionality of a replicant page is that when one of the links up top is clicked, it takes you to that section of the page. Now in authoring, the ruler is going to get in the way of the header at the top of that section. Once you publish the page and you look at it in the live environment, you'll see that the link will take you to the page at a location where the header is right at the top of the page for the section that you've clicked on. And each one of these sections has a back to top link that will take you back up to the top of the Oregon.gov page. And so regardless of how many links you have, and as it don't have any limit to the number of links, they will always work in that fashion. They will take you to the page where that link lives, where that section lives, and back to top will bring you back to the top of the page. Very useful for dividing up little bits of information that all have to do with the same main function, or similar kinds of information such as meeting notes or agendas, things like that that you need to divide up into months or years or however you have those kinds of things divided within your agency. Not all pages that have these links at the top are actually replicant pages. Some of them, we have some very ambitious agency authors who have hand-churned their page to act like this. They understand the links that are up here at the top, and they understand the anchor points in the headers, and they have handmade their own replicant style page that may or may not act exactly like this one, but there are some out there that look like this that are not actually replicant pages. So how do we tell? If we have a page that we open up to edit and it doesn't look like what I'm going to present to you today, how can we be sure if it's a replicant page that's not working right and we need to call the service desk, or if it's not a replicant page, therefore it's not broken? Well, the way we tell that is by going to the back end of the site And like everything else, we start with site actions, and we look at all site content. Once that renders, we go to the Pages library, where all of our pages should live, and we follow the path to the page that we have in question. And I believe that was Replicant page 2, I think. And as we look at this list of pages, you can see over here on the right-hand side of the page that the page layout is listed for each page in the folder. That's how we find out if it's actually a replicant page. It'll say Oregon B3 replicant. Or if it's some other kind of page that has been coded to look like or act like a replicant. If it's a replicant page and it does not behave the way that we were talking about today in this class, give us a call. If it's not a replicant page, but it looks like one, you might be better served to talk to the last person who modified it or find out who created it and see what they did to it to make it look like that. That would be custom coding, and just so that we don't mess anything up in somebody's custom code, we generally won't get in and mess with it. We want your pages to be stable and not have any surprises induced by the service desk or any of our team. So verify that it's a replicant page before wondering if there's something broken. To open this replicant page for editing, simply click on the name of the page. So we open the page right to where it was before, and we go to either the Edit key or button up here in the ribbon, or Site Actions and click Edit Page, or we can open the Page ribbon and click Edit here. Always 3 ways to open a page for editing. This page was established with the new Blade Runner engine. So we don't have what some of you see in your pages, a button right about here that asks you if you want to convert the page to the new style. We'll talk about that later in the class. So don't get worried if this page doesn't look exactly like yours. They're all replicants, and all of them eventually will be converted to this new style. Notice when we entered authoring mode, the links turned black, and as we hover over the links, we get these 2 handy little buttons that say Edit or Delete. Now, if you say that you want to delete one, SharePoint will ask you if you're sure, but if you say, yes, I'm sure, go ahead and delete it. There's no going back from that. And so make sure that if you don't want to delete it, you hit the Edit button, not the Delete button. In this mode right now, there's nothing we can do in the body of the page. The body of the page doesn't know that it's in edit mode. We have to tell the body of the page that we want to edit part of it. So we've already told the page that we want to edit it up in the ribbon. Now we have to tell the page that I want to edit a certain section of the page. So let's take the middle one, hovering over this link, and I'm going to click Edit. Now that middle section is the only thing visible on the page. That's the way it should be. SharePoint only pays attention to one section at a time, and that's how we avoid the old problems with tables and tables within tables. You can go ahead and make new content in these sections as you need to. You can perform any edit maneuver in these sections that you can perform in a regular page. And those kinds of things are all covered in the more basic classes. The caveat there is web parts. Web parts and replicants don't get along real well. If you have to have a web part within a replicant section, give us a call and we'll help make that happen. We have to go into an administrative authoring mode to do that. If you can get away with linking to a page that has the web part that you need, that's the preferred method, because currently we have to keep up the maintenance on these pages that have web parts within replicant sections. And so you're kind of, you got something that really has to be done. It'd be really nice if it can happen right now, and we're, 6 hours out, it'll happen tomorrow morning for you. We do our best, but if you can get away with not having web parts here, it's probably your best bet. The fix for that is in development. We do want these to be friendly to every part of editing, so we are working on a fix that we can implement to allow you to easily insert web parts just like any other page layout. For right now, we are still the ones who have to make that happen for replicants. Once you are finished editing a replicant section, it is imperative that you click Save Item. Right now, all SharePoint knows is this section that you're editing right here. It has forgotten about the rest of the page. And so if you go up to the ribbon and click Save and Close, SharePoint will continue forgetting about the rest of the page and replace all of the contents of the page with this one section. And when you finish, you'll wind up with one section and one link, instead of, in some of your cases, 40 or 50 links to 40 or 50 sections. And that it cannot be undone. There's no undo button for that, but it can be reverted back to the previous edition of the page. Unfortunately, that loses all of the work that you just did in the section that you edited. And so the proper way to do this is to make your edits in whatever section and click this green Save Item button. You may have to scroll in your page to do it. If you have a long section, you may have to scroll up to do it and click that Save Item. That remembers the section and puts it back into the big page view where it belongs. And then, once you see this back again with your edits, then you can come up to the ribbon and click the Save button. I recommend that you do that often and early. There's a lot of work that goes into some of these replicant pages, and if you do too many edits in too many sections and then something happens and maybe you forget about the Save Item button and you hit Save and Close instead, you lose several hours of work, because the only thing we can do is revert it back to an earlier version that doesn't have all that work you just put in. And so remember that Save Item button. I would suggest each time you finish working a section, you click the Save Item button and then save the page. And like I just did, that you may have seen, rather than just click Save and Close, I used the drop menu and clicked Save and Keep Editing. That solidifies your page, makes SharePoint remember it, without jumping you out of the page. Just a little bit of time saved there. It's not a big deal, but if you've got a lot to do, every little bit of time matters. And then once you have done all the editing that you're going to do on your replicant page, you'll save and close just like normal. It'll give you a preview of the way it's going to look on the web so you can be sure. And then you will simply check in as normal. and publish as normal. Now, what happens if something gets messed up? If one of your sections or several of your sections get real messed up and you're not quite sure what to do about it, remember your buddy, the discard checkout button. What that does is it makes SharePoint forget about everything you've done since you checked the page out, whether you've saved it or not, which is nice. And so my little edit here that I made could represent hours and hours of work, but it could also represent getting deeper and deeper into some kind of a design. Let's say it's a table that is just not going the way you want it to go. And rather than having this table hanging around that you have to fix, which sometimes can be very, very time consuming as well, maybe you just need to start from scratch. And you can do that by discarding the checkout. And if I discard the checkout, it'll ask me if I'm sure, because it's going to lose work. I say yes, okay. And you see that edit I made in my middle section is gone, and the page is back to the same shape it was before I checked it out. That will only go back to the most recent checkout. There's no levels of that you can go back and back and back. That's where going back in page versions is used. But it is a very useful tool just in case you get lost or you get, the best example I can think of is a table that just gets nested and really, wild on you, and you're not quite sure what to do with it. That can be a layout saver, a time saver, so you don't have to go back and fix everything, just wipe it out, start from scratch. After I discarded my checkout, of course, the page went back to a preview mode. It's no longer in editing mode, so I have to tell it that I want to edit it again. And let's talk about deleting a replicant item so that you can see that process. If I say that I want to delete a section, the process will delete the link and the replicant section that it links to. It's one foul swoop. And so here's what it looks like. If I want to delete the top section, I click delete, and I tell SharePoint that yes, I really mean it, and just that quick, it's gone. There is no undo. There's nothing I can do to get it back other than I can discard my checkout, or, as was just asked, if it's too late and I go ahead and check it in, I can revert to an earlier version, and we will go over that in just a little bit. And so for now, that link and that section are gone. I'm going to check my page in to give me a restore point there. And now I'm going to open it for editing one more time. To add a replicant section is as easy as it looks with this big blue button sitting here. You simply add a new item. You click that button, and now you're in edit mode for your brand new replicant item, replicant section as I call them. And this is my new replicant item. And my new content. And again, in order to solidify that, I have to click Save Item. If I don't click Save Item, and I go right up here to Save and Close, this new section will replace everything else on the page, and it will frustrate me because then I'll have to go through hoops to get it back. So I will click Save Item, and it fell in line at the end of the line. But it's created, and that's all it took. The link was created automatically, and the section is created. When I asked it to create a new item, the section is created. Those are automatically linked together. There's nothing you have to do about it to link them or anything. I'm going to go save. And we're in preview mode. You can see that works. It won't go any further than the bottom of the page, which is why we're not seeing these bottom links up at the top of the page when it goes there, because I don't have enough replicant sections here to illustrate that. So you see it goes as far to the bottom of the page as it can to my new replicant section here. What if you don't want your new replicant item at the bottom of the list? What if you want to order them differently? Well, if you want to order them differently, all you have to do is grab it with the mouse and drag it to its new location. And that will not only change the location of the link, it will change the location of the replicant section. That's all there is to it. The link is still active. It's still hooked to the right section. Your other links are still hooked to the right section, and all you have to do is click Save, and that change is made. It's entirely drag and drop. It's kind of a wonderful thing. If your priorities in your agency change or in that program change, if you have seasonal concepts that you want to bring to the top of the page at different times of year, you can reorganize it that way. It's a neat little feature. About an option to convert a replicant page. So what I'm going to go do is find a page that is still in the old style. Now this one has had a history to it, and so I'm going to open it for editing, and you can see this is in the old style. The links at the top of the page go away when I open it for editing. The article area becomes active for editing, and I can actually change things in here. Unlike the new style, where this area is not active until I select a replicant section to edit. And then in this one, the save applies to the whole page. We're hoping that most of you are converting your pages to the new style, because it's much, much easier to manage on your own. It takes much less time to make edits, especially if you do have any nested tables. This will either fix them, or it'll present you with the problem. The page won't look right, and if you're somewhat HTML savvy, you can go in and find the problem and fix it, or you can call the help desk. We have told you, and we still stand by it, that if you can't figure out what's going on with this replicant page that you just told to convert, we will manually convert it for you. And we have not come across anything that we have not successfully converted yet. And then once it's converted, that's all. You never have to look at this old way to do it again. And it's all that fresh, new, easy way to edit. And so when you're confronted and you have this little button, this is the one I was looking at or talking about earlier, and it asks you if you want to convert to new format. If I click that button, SharePoint will warn me and say, "Are you sure?" And I will say, "Yes, I want to convert to the new format." Now it looks like it did it right away, but it's actually still working. Now it's done. SharePoint tells you, this is not an error message, by the way. This is just a notification. This is telling you that SharePoint has done its best. It can only read clean HTML code. So if your HTML code, like I say, if it had nested tables or incomplete tags or anything like that, SharePoint may not be able to read it, and your sections down low here may not look exactly the same as they did in your old section, your old page. If they don't, not a reason to panic. If you don't have time to deal with it right then and there, remember that your old friend discard checkout is available to you. You discard the checkout and the conversion goes away. And if I open this for editing, you'll see that we are back to the old way of editing, and I'm still faced with the option to convert to the new format. So you're not forced into it. If you're under a time crunch, you got to get a change made, and it's not going to work for you this time, fine. Do it when you have some time. Do it next time you got to edit the page. No problem. But if you do have trouble, we're here. We'll help convert that page by hand if we need to. Anytime that you create a page, you'll want to go to the library that you want the page in first, which is, I'm headed there right now.
Okay.
View all site content, and in the pages library, and I'll go back into my replicant pages folder.
Okay.
And anytime you're going to add a new page or create a page, what you want to do is use the Documents ribbon. Activate the Documents ribbon and go New Document this way. And then tell it what you want to add here.
Got it.
This way, it will put the page where you expect it. It does not, now this one caught that I wanted a replicant. If you tell it that you want a standard page, it will actually give you the single column. It'll select single column for you, and then you have to tell it, no, I want standard. But this way, you get the layout that you want, and it will be where you want it to be. If you do it the other ways that are available, what happens if you use site actions and new page, or if you use add new item, what happens is the new page that you created gets created, but it gets created using the single column template, and it gets created at the root of the pages library rather than in the library you're in right now. And so you want to use the ruler, the Documents ruler, in the library that you want it in, and New Document, and then choose the page layout you want. I'm going to talk about restoring a page to a previous version. If I run into that situation where I have come to a point in a page that I simply am confused, I am not sure which way to head, and I want to start from scratch. I want to start over from my old starting point. What I can do is take the page ribbon and look at the page history of this particular page. So page ribbon, page history, this will show me what I have right now, and then using the version history button, I can display all of my versions here. And I can go, this is the current published major version. This is the version that's in the authoring environment right now. Notice it's a minor version. It's a 0.1, whereas the major version is a 0.0. Your major versions are the versions that are published or have been published, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, etc. The minor versions will have a 0.1, a 0.2, or whatever the number is to identify that that's the nth version that has been done since the last time this page was published, but it still hasn't been published again yet. If it were published, there would be a 2.0 up here. And so to revert to an older version, what I do is go to the title. In this case, it's the date and time stamp of the version that I want. The one I want to get rid of is towards the top, and the one I want is always one or two or however many versions before, depending on how many times that you check that page in, since you were getting to the point that you're at where you want to start over. So sometimes you have to look a little bit, and you can click on the name of the page or the timestamp of the page and see, oh, is that the one I want? And if it is, you remember which timestamp it was. You just go back, and using the drop menu, all you have to do is say restore. It'll again ask you if you're sure. I say yes, okay. And now this former 1.1 has been replaced with basically a duplicate of this major version. And you see 2:45 p.m., that's like right now. So that's the version that I reverted to, and if I go back to authoring, that's the version that I have. So in a nutshell, to restore a previous version, go to the page ribbon, use page history. I look at version history. You also have your versions over here, but this is a little more graphic representation. You can see the individual versions. And then I use the drop menu, click restore, and SharePoint tells me that I'm being presumptuous and can't do that. So I go to a previous version, click restore, SharePoint asks, I say yes, and it does it. And so now we have 246. There's also a short document available on GovSpace addressing that very issue. Okay. That library on GovSpace is increasing weekly, either with written documentation or with videos, some of them very short and task-oriented. I'm starting to get some longer training session length videos edited and on there, so those can be helpful to you. Okay, well, that is our Replicant page layout training session. A little bit shorter than the previous sessions we've had, but it's a real easy layout to use. So I appreciate your time. I hope you got a little something out of it. Remember that we are here to help. The service desk phone number is 503-378-2126. And the service desk email address is egovhelp. That's E-G-O-V, help, at state.or.us. That will generate a ticket automatically that gives me a warning bell on my computer, and my attention is nearly immediately drawn to it in most cases. So thanks very much. Appreciate your time, and I hope you all have a great day.